T. Weber's pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
Say it wasn't on the D. It's a cold.
Okay, we are live.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order now. Lisa Kelly here, the chair of the Arts Commission. Welcome, everyone. We have Cicely. Cicely Tyson, that's an actress. Board Wins, Sophie Langius, Lester Berg, and Richard Frummis, present this evening. Before we get started, I just want to congratulate Kit for receiving Mohawk Consultations 2025 Distinguished Achievement Award. For her many ways she has enriched the culture of the region. And they're honoring Kit for the concerts, cultural events, public art installations and exhibitions, celebrations of deeply powerful moments in history that she has helped usher through for the city of Kingston, among other brilliant achievements. So congratulations. Very happy to celebrate you. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes? Do you have a motion to approve?
Question?
I need a motion first.
Oh.
Questions?
Well, yes, no, it's about, but before approving,
Oh.
question about the minutes.
Well, you make a motion to accept the minutes,
Oh.
second, and then discussion.
Okay,
There's one typo. Okay.
I get this all mixed up. I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. A second on the motion?
Second.
Word. Question, Richard? Sue, ooh, she just come right in there.
Yeah, I just want to send it to you. None of the minutes, this, maybe this is one that I can give it to you now. Here's December 7th, 2025. What's your director's
That's not
update?
director's update. It's not something. No problem. Thank you. Good. Thank you for catching me.
Mine is important.
What you got, Richard?
Continuing with commission's plan to establish, discrete committees, it says apostrophe, yes, it's plural. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm sorry. Second page.
Second page, what's second?
Second page, second paragraph, I apologize.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Corrections? I'd like to vote. Vote on the approval of minutes. Give everyone who approves minutes, please say aye. Nay. Motion has passed. Approval of the March 13th minutes gone through. Second item on the agenda, we are welcoming Lisa Berger, Director of Ulster County Tourism, to discuss the new position of Director of Arts, Culture, and Open Spaces. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for joining us.
And why don't you scoot it, or over here
Do you
in
want to
this
sit?
corner? Does that work?
Yes,
Okay,
there we go. So thank you so much, Ed and Lisa, for having me here. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to take one of these. And this is the position description for the arts and culture job. It's 2 pages, you're going to have to make 2 pages. And although it's more rep, this is also the final. So
Believe it or not, or is it different?
I think
it's the same, yeah.
the same.
Yep.
The same
So,
as-
okay,
that
as long as you have it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think that really I don't know that you need me to go directly into each, like the duties and responsibilities, but maybe more understanding how this position fits within the county structure, within Ulster County Tourism, and kind of the thought how this is going to work with that. Does that work for you guys? So the department, the position is housed underneath tourism. It is, the position reports to the director of tourism. So where you would look at a chart in tourism, what you would see is the director at the top, the deputy director on the side, and underneath, and on the other, the director of arts and culture. The position does not have an assigned budget for 2025. It does not have any support staff other than who's in the department. And that's important, I think, for everybody to understand. It's the department's position. The position will, we have 65 applicants for the position. The position pays $72,500 a year, plus benefits, which raises it by another $25,000 probably, is what the benefits are worth. So that, the position is forward-facing. The position is expected to work in conjunction with myself and the county executive leadership, right? Because it reports through on the county executive's line. This does not report to the legislature, does not report to the legislature, even though that work was done in conjunction with the legislature, right? Because they're the policymaking board. They don't do personnel staffing and all of that for operations of the county. The county does that. The county executive does that. So I think that where there's been any kind of confusion about the job, maybe that's where the confusion has been, where people are confused about it. But at this point, if you have questions that you want me to answer about everything that I've said, I'm happy to take a pause and and answer questions, and then if we need to, move on. You go ahead.
It's quite an impressive job description.
Yes.
Are there, within these tasks, are there priorities for the first year, 1 to 2 to 3 years for the position?
So what I can tell you is whoever winds up with the position will work with me to establish 3 near-term goals that need to be accomplished within year 1. We will also set at that time a midterm goal, which would be in the 2 to 3 year range, and a long term. The expectation is the position will be working on those things as their job. Yes.
And will there be an advisory board to?
It's my understanding that the legislature will have an advisory board.
So there is a commission, the equivalent of a commission.
So what you have to understand is this job reports to the executive side. So while there will be an advisory board, it's advisory.
Well, which is what we are.
Yeah.
We're advisory.
Yeah.
So there is some.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, I'm sorry, no,
I was
I'm
actually
sorry.
clearing my throat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry.
I would just say that with such a extensive job description, to have people from the arts, different aspects of the arts, just meeting every couple months and setting, discussing priorities might be a very helpful thing for you and the new director.
I agree. I mean, I'm not sure what that an advisory boards, what they're, I don't know. I would have, the department and the executive has no say over who would be named to that board, or the frequency of meeting, or what it is that they're overseeing.
Yeah.
You've worked in government. Look at you.
I'm just suggesting it's up to you.
Yes,
To take it,
yeah.
to next steps or not.
Yes, absolutely. And we're very lucky that a terrific working document has been handed to us, and that there's, that steps or actions have been outlined in a very clear manner in the document.
That was gonna be my question, was how is the position from your perspective relating to the work of the
I think the document was really well done. I think a lot of work was put into it. I think that it's an exceptional piece. I think it's really ambitious for a county legislature to decide to take on this kind of a task and then see it all the way through. So I want to compliment the legislature for funding it, then for like making sure that all that work got done, and then delivering a document that is practical as much as inspirational. And I don't think that that's an easy thing for anybody to do at all. And I think they did a really good job, including everybody who worked on it.
I have more of a technical question, and I realized I've been in government, I was in government 40 years. Say there's a partnership with the open space
Yes.
group, which is probably Public Works, and there's a percent for art project. Does this position manage the process through to the installation of the public art? It seems like most of the descriptions are developing programs, facilitating funding, that sort of thing. But in addition, this person would work with the fabricators, the site selection, all that stuff.
So,
That's the vision.
so it was
And part
important, yeah.
You said the staff of the department would be available. Which staff would be able to assist a position like this?
The secretary.
You don't have a cadre of project managers waiting for assignments.
We,
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Which is what I.
yeah, we really, to answer your question, it was important to the executive level that this position see the opportunity to marry arts to our open spaces and outdoors.
It's a lot of advocacy, good.
Right. A key question for whomever comes into this role is, what does that mean? What does that look like? How do you do that? What kind of things are you thinking? What are you envisioning? And to your point, and what would it take to do that? So if we're talking about art installations, let's say on the rail trail, along various rail trails that the county has control over, at what, that all needs to get into a budget, right? Like that, the money to help create the infrastructure that would support that. So I'm seeing some things as stuff that unfortunately the timing of the hire of this position is winding up like towards the beginning of June, just because it's 65 applications to go through, a whole lot of interviews that need to be conducted, then like everything else. So the county's budget process, I don't know what the city's budget process is like, but the county's budget process, we have to have all of our budget requests for 2026 in by the end of June. I'm not certain that this person or whomever, whoever it is doing this role is gonna have enough time in that short amount of time to say, I anticipate a budget being put in. Is it gonna be perfect? No. Is it gonna address everything that we need? Certainly not. We can speculate, but ultimately, long-term, the plan is to work with people who do things like this and who will be able to be informative to say, this is how much money you need for fabrication. This is how much you're gonna need to prepare the ground around it. This is how much you're gonna need in order to install and maintain it. Because I am not thinking that anybody else in the county.
Taking that up.
Yeah.
That's helpful, thank you.
The county commissioned, that I know of anyway, the county commissioned the poorhouse statute. And so with that, that's on county grounds. With this section, are we saying that the county intends to commission more public art on public property, or
I don't,
that's where the gray area is?
so Maggie, you were active in this, there are a lot of people here at this table who were active in the process, if you were. I don't recall that being discussed at all in any of the groups that met to do it. I would say to you that so it's an interesting process here in the county, right? There's executive initiatives and legislative initiatives, right? So could I envision a situation where the legislature may say, this public art project is super important to us, and we'd like to put money in the budget for it, and it should be dedicated to? They might do that. They would have the authority to do that, but nobody's saying they're going to do that. Likewise, the executive may say, this is, really an important thing to us. And making sure that we have the money for it is gonna go into that. It would be the normal process of creating a budget, but right now, commissioning artwork for the county was not what was discussed in the creation of the plan. The creation of the plan was really about how does the county best support artists, their art, and their ability to do art here. That was really, I think, focus of what was done in that process, and I don't see that
So
changing.
this would be a matter of an individual artist applying for a grant, coming to some sort of agreement with the county for temporary public art on open spaces then?
No, where it comes to open spaces, I am thinking what they are thinking is, that, to use the example before, so the county has use and control of the Ashokan Rail Trail. Well, that's a bad example because the DEP is involved in that, so hold on, let me back up. If we have use and control of the ONW or the one that runs to Ellenville, that one is controlled by the county. So perhaps they're talking about like an art installation, art exhibits, something along there, or they're talking about interpreting art in nature, maybe, right? And really making sure that, so there are other open spaces, like I can think of huge open spaces in like the New Paltz area, like where the River to Ridge is. Maybe what they do is go to OSI and say, we have artists who want to put something in this big field that you own, but I don't know, but it would not be the county necessarily doing that. It's about looking at our open spaces, understanding how even nature, I think, is part of art and creating art around that. So I was going to use as an example, the ONW Rail Trail in the Kerhonkson area did this thing one time. It was the town of Rochester, where they took the ash trees that had been felled because of the emerald ash borers, and they asked artists to take the fallen ash trees and create art from it, and they put it on the trail. That is kind of what I think is what was talked about in marrying these two ideas, but it's open to interpretation, open to fluidity. I do not see us commissioning big, huge works, and I'm not sure that I see us providing, so the re-granting authority, that was not talked about in the development of this. I will say that they were very clear about the kind of things that they wanted in that plan. And we're going to try to stick to the plan.
And I would recommend talking to OSI about how successful they've been in placing sculptures on the rail trail. Not very.
Oh, because of people's vandalism?
No, and also the owners who are adjacent to the rail trail.
Oh, okay, I didn't think about that.
It's just worth bringing them into the conversation
Yeah.
once you hire someone.
Yeah, Athena's trying to get on Zoom and Link
I
wasn't
didn't,
working.
yeah, I didn't think about that. It's funny that I remember vandalism, sorry about that.
I think it's just interesting for me to, my first reaction is, well, they have the money.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I'm unclear, you know, and now I'm a little even more clear, of the term stewardship of open spaces. That really refers to.
Yeah, it's like Parks and Rec, isn't
Huh?
it? Isn't that like a Parks and Rec responsibility?
Yeah, well, that's Park and Rec, and that's what like land trusts and the various trusts and conspiracies around are doing. So I think open spaces has more to do with that aspect of the county and the way that land is used. Open spaces is a whole statewide program that is tied to conservancy and preservation.
So how, on that then, how does an arts, arts and culture director, or department, fit in with that? Then I don't
So
quite
it's
see that.
super important to understand, this is not a department and they're not gonna
It's
fund
not
a department.
Oh, okay,
They are not gonna fund a department. It falls underneath tourism.
okay.
And they will not, and that was not part of the discussion, was funding a department. That was,
Okay.
at least from the county end. So where it comes to like open spaces, I do think that Maggie's right, that it was more this idea that, you know, nearly 2/3 of our land mass, Ulster County's land mass, sits inside the Catskill Park. That is forever wild space. How do we maximize that in terms of artistic vision, creation, marrying? Like, what does that mean? And that also allows the position to think about assets that are in, there's 24 towns in Ulster County, and some of them are extremely rural, and that enables the position to think in a way that is more than just being within the centers that we all think of. You know.
I have another question also, thank you for the clarification. Is this position funded as a part of the budget, or is it's not from grants?
Nope, it's a full-time budgeted line inside the tourism
Yeah,
department.
so that, which is very different from what we have.
Right.
So that, okay.
What excites you the most about having a person doing this job?
I think, that person, so I appreciate art, and I was very open in all of this, like, process. I appreciate art, I love artists, I think they're magnificent. I'm also art afraid. I feel as though I don't know what I don't know. It is sometimes art with a big A, and it makes me very nervous. And I say that as somebody who's married to somebody whose dad was an art teacher. So like, and I have lots of art in our house that he made. So, but I do think that I think that what I'm most excited about is having someone there who we can talk about things, and I understand there's a wonderful opportunity for me and our department. It's not just about me, right? But it's and our department, right? So that we can explore something else without it being very
Great.
We had talked about, it's been a lot of time when I first got here about coordinated calendar, community-wide calendar, city-wide calendar. And you were giving me you were schooling me on, you know, how your office has to vet everything that you get as far as submit your event to tourism. And that it takes staff effort to go in there, making sure it's correct, making sure it's not a hoax, it doesn't lead to something scary. So this says that this position will develop a fully comprehensive county-wide calendar.
So that is one of the deliverables. It was very important, and Maggie's smiling on that because this was very, very important to the people who went through this process. And it's a huge ask. And Kit, I have no idea whether that means that we're gonna RFP out a service, which is entirely possible, right? Because this is one person, and you see all the things that are here. And you and I had a conversation about how calendar management is a full-time person.
Meg was doing the
Yeah.
first Saturday art
Yeah,
call,
yeah,
and that's very involved to get, people to submit your information so that we can help you get the
Right.
word out. Would this be on the website or we get?
Well, what's interesting about this position, right, is that it has, so the tourism department, I always talk about like all of our multiple audiences, right? So where it comes to our messaging is mainly outside of the county. In fact, it should be 90% outside of the county, because what we're trying to do is bring people here to spend money, stay here and drive revenue. That's our purpose. Tourism departments are built to do that. We're supposed to be generating revenue. So, but our other audiences are the multitude of hospitality businesses, right? Providing services to them, providing services to people doing events here, right? As well as other audiences, which are specialty, right? Like group bus tours and things like that, right? So we have a multitude of audiences that we work with. And I'm going to say, except for really the business services we deliver to people, to the hospitality industry, which we definitely do. The department does not spend a lot of time communicating in the county. We don't do that because it's not our mission. This position is going to have to. This is a big part of this position, and it's very different. And we really need to work out what that calendar is going to look like, who it's serving, how it's serving them. There has been a desire in all of these conversations to have like a way, like a master calendar, right? So that art programmers could go to it and be like, okay, I better not do it on November 14th because there's 20 things already on that day. Like, that doesn't exist right now, right? It does not exist. So we understand that that's a big desire of this position. How that's achieved, I am here to say, we have to figure that out. And like I said, is it something that might wind up going out to RFP to see if somebody else can deliver it? Because we just don't have the staff that it could go out, you know?
Because when we were talking also, I made reference to that project in Hartford, and it was only November through New Year's. And it was all the municipalities surrounding Hartford. And it was it was probably outsourced during that time, but they gleaned information on all the events, activities, festivals, whatever, between that time. And all the businesses, all the organizations were very happy. All the shops were happy because it was booming. But as far as sustaining that financially,
that one job is huge. So we really need to interpret what an information hub looks like. That's a big unknown right now. Like, we have to figure that out.
I have a couple questions, so I want to just
Yeah.
extend this 30 minutes, a
Okay.
few more minutes.
All right.
Maybe like 5 more minutes.
Okay.
What audiences do you see this position actually serving then? Because you're saying if it's inside the county.
It has to serve inside and outside, right? Like, it's got a dual. So I'm saying that my advertising, like the tourism department's advertising, and most of our communication is outward.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah, I understand.
This person has to talk to people, to organizations, organizations, businesses, individuals, artists, develop programs inside the county and develop communications inside the county and ways of letting citizens in the county know what's going on, which is not my primary focus.
Right, it seems like it would require at least a year's worth of discovery for this position to understand the constituency that they're serving. I hope that that's going to be included in the process of onboarding and developing the goals, at least in even short-term or long-term way. Because there's a whole slew of artists, just in Kingston alone, that we are concerned with. But, I mean, the county, we know this with the plan. But I just have another question. Is it intentional that the plan is not included in this job description? Is it because it hasn't been approved yet, or
No, the job description's approved. I think that.
No, I mean the plan.
Oh, the plan, yes, because we had to go, we have to get the position, we've got to get moving.
Yeah, right.
Just got to get moving. Yes, yes, sure answer.
I have a question, and maybe it's because I'm only a little familiar with the plan, but so the question is about content generation and the types of capital A art projects that are actually going to be supported by this. So it's promoting nature-inspired festivals, Ulster County's natural beauty, supports initiatives that honor local heritage and environment. And what about all of the big capital A art that is not about local heritage and environment? Is this focus
Art
on
falls into there. I would never,
local heritage?
so
That implies history, right? Like we're talking about cultural history, legacy stuff,
So I
rather
think,
than.
so I think that when we look at this, that the intent is to support art of every kind. And so some may have been called out, and I don't think that there was an intention, as I look at it. Yeah, I do not think that arts and culture and county initiatives, so.
Well, so the reason I say this is because that it really leaps out to me as like the emphasis of this initiative, of this new focus, of this new position, which is like so wonderful, right? But I do worry about what it means for the Ulster County art brand. And thinking especially from a tourist perspective and from the perspective of, being in the city of Kingston, where I want this region to be recognized as like a formidable, hub for arts and culture. And all of the kind of local heritage, that's culture. But if I guess I just caution against an overemphasis on nature, and local heritage stuff, because it really is kind of a disservice to promoting an image of this being a place that is fresh and forward-thinking and cosmopolitanly minded anyway.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So I guess that,
Okay, one more question and then we're gonna have to move on.
I'm still not clear, is there the coordination between the county and the city departments?
So,
How that works, I mean, and especially what you just brought up is very important, I think, exactly, it made me think of this.
what I'm feeling about that is that this is all a work in progress, this is brand new. The city, as you know, has made advances, we have a master plan, and we also have a public art policy. So where it comes to the county supporting, I think this is like.
that would be the only role that we played. This would not be.
This would be the beginning
Right.
of the conversation.
Exactly.
How we're going to communicate.
Exactly.
Coordinate, collaborate.
Exactly.
You know.
The way that we have it. Yeah.
Right, but we have to
Yes.
wait until the person gets over.
Yes.
And then,
And I see the position maintaining its active support and partnership in all that you do, because there is no desire.
Also, does the Saugerties have a commission? now?
They have a
They
commission,
do,
right?
they've had one, I think.
But they don't have a representative employee on the staff on the, yeah.
Right, I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we just, yes, like honestly, this is really, you are doing brilliant work, and there would be no desire to weigh in other than to say, how can we support you?
Yeah.
And what can we do to partner? And that's it,
And
kind of the way that we do
We've
now.
already, and it gets mentioned a lot, like, look at Kingston's master plan.
Yeah.
How's it been, how's it going?
Right.
And then to look at this public art policy and this public art committee that we have, and then like, lessons learned from
Yeah.
our newborn baby. priorities.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And now this.
yeah,
So I just feel like,
Yes.
you know, these
Yes.
roots that have been planted
yes.
are now growing countywide.
But I think that that's how you should look at it, and that you really seeded you really put the seeds down, and now it's gonna hopefully grow and be amazing. But without a doubt, the city's, passion, leadership, and dedication to this, and your own personal dedication will be honored, and all we will look for is to help you however we can.
I think that the position, like, looking at this, it's very, very ambitious job description. It's
It
covering
certainly
a
is.
lot.
Did I
But I'm glad to hear that you're gonna get 3 priorities first to really focus in on, and then go to the next long-term,
Yeah.
short-term.
Well, anything else will just overwhelm and really hurt the person that we want to be successful.
Yeah.
We want somebody to be successful, and we want it to work. And I appreciate all the questions and input. And what I would suggest is that if you have any other thoughts after I've left, please send me an email or send them to Kit, and she can forward it to me and say, this is what I was thinking. Do you think how do you think this will go? And, we don't know what we don't know.
I think I could speak for the whole commission in saying that we really support the county and their efforts
Goes the other way
to
too.
create. Yeah, so, I mean, anything that you might need from us as an advisory board that exists within the city of Kingston to help, just let us know.
I know that the person, that we will really appreciate that as soon as we've got somebody in the job, and that offer will probably be taken up on, so I really appreciate it. So thank you,
Yeah.
and thank you for all
Thank
of
you,
your
it's,
time.
really appreciate your time.
I'm gonna step over this and get my.
Mail boss said, take the rest of the day off. Yeah. And he would take the rest of the day off. Yeah.
Seen it, it's just on
Yes.
YouTube.
Thanks.
I know, I've been trying to send her the link, but it's not working for her.
All right, next up, the Public Art Committee report from interim chair. Mr. Burton.
So we had a good meeting of the Public Art Committee, and most of the commission members were there. So really for Cicely and Dina. You
And
do.
DJ, actually,
And
who's
DJ.
taking minutes from AI.
I wrote it out, it's small time, but we started the meeting asking the members to think about what public art sort of means and what values as a committee we want to develop. Sophie raised points about, are we just about nature? No, we're about the whole creative experience and what artists produce.
Hold on. Dina,
Hello,
can you hear Lester?
I can hear Lester. Yeah.
Okay.
I listened in on YouTube, so thanks so much, Kit, for sending the link. I can hear you. Hello.
Go, I'm sorry.
Then I will continue, great. We also talked about some governance issues and the need for an interim vice chair. There was discussion, Lindsay W. agreed to be considered and was unanimously approved. Then Amy Poo arrived,
Amy,
proper pronunciation?
Pooks.
Okay,
Pooks.
we.
What was it again?
She arrived and gave a background on Art Society of Kingston, their programs, their mission, their purpose. The committee was expecting,
Can we
A little
go
more
into
meat.
a little bit, I'm sorry, it wasn't really a formal presentation, she was looking for advice, so I really don't know that we need to bring that up in a public session right now.
yeah, that's where I was going. It was a good get acquainted session, and afterwards, I had an exchange with her, and, we look forward. She was, since it was the committee's first meeting, it was sort of a first date for everyone involved, and we want to keep dating and help them develop the biennial and look at sites and all those other logistical issues, as well as, what sort of vision there is for it. Then we moved along to the entree of the agenda, which was to talk about the historic paintings, how to get staff resources and technical assistance. There are a lot of moving parts and a lot of chickens and eggs because our members with relationships with local institutions, Bard and Dorsey, could assist if there was funding and if there was a position description. But to get the funding, you need to have the partner in place. So we're pushing all these pieces forward a little. Wade had brought up the obvious point of what do we know about the condition of the paintings and what's the scope and the extent of the budgetary needs. And luckily, both DJ and I know painting conservators who have agreed to schedule a visit to look at the collection and give a sort of ballpark. I can speak from my connection, not DJ's,
DJ is coming on the 13th, so we have both coming.
which is great. And my contacts at Painting Conservator worked at the state on projects that got funded through sources that Wade had mentioned would be a good. Do I keep doing that?
That's the first time. It's okay.
It won't happen again.
Starts with a W.
And it's 4 letters. Greater Hudson Heritage Association Network and NISCA are funders of this type of conservation, so that would be a good lead. So the condition and getting the assessment informally from experts in the field will help Kit reach out further to Sarah to develop the grants, applications and concepts. At the same time, we'll look at the potential partners. It sounds confusing because there's a lot of little pieces to bring together, and it was our first meeting as a public art committee. We've just been handed this. Did I leave anything out?
Well, I just want to comment on that piece. The conversation has been going about, and I talked to Casey Robertson tomorrow about, well, before we could take this back, we need a job description. And it's very difficult to look at a job description without the weigh-in from the people that are going to be working on this piece. I think also we're taking a risk by, putting a job description out there, trying to go after money and not getting the buy-in first from potential faculty who would be willing to take this project or that project on. So my preference is to find out or poll, and I'm willing to spend time on the faculty at both colleges that might be willing and might, look at the job description and say, I'd like to see that, because here we do it this way, here we do it that way. And at that point, I can give Ruth Ann Frank a concept paper to go and look after, but at least we're not backing into it. Because she is a brilliant grant writer. If we give her the budget that it would be needed for the repairs, would we not need the faculty's input on that afterwards?
I don't understand for what position.
Repair of the, work progress administration collection.
So like to create a fellowship or some kind of paid internship for the students of these institutions to contribute it, and the idea is that it would be faculty initiated.
Right, just like we've done it twice now, and Ethan Dickerman, who works in Sue Cahill's office, is going to present to us how the college, the SUNY New Paltz, has partnered with the city in the repair of the lunettes. The faculty and the students are involved with that. Sue and Ethan are looking back on how the funds were raised. As Sue mentioned, we do have more stringent rules now than we did back in the 2000s, but the way forward on raising these funds or having our grants director seek funds would be to have all the information, but I would prefer that we have the faculty weigh in before we ask Ruth Ann. And we also, of course, with the work progress administration, that work was also done with a partnership with Dorsey, SUNY New Paltz, and the students.
Well, I mean, it seems to me like what you're describing then is that we still do need some initial language to present them with to describe the project. And it can be like a preliminary proposal. And then we get their feedback, and from that comes the job description. But I still think that just kind of gaming out how it would work on my end is, I can put some feelers out, but it's gonna be
Well,
very
We will
vague.
have more information now that we
Yeah.
have two conservators coming
Yeah.
to examine.
I would suggest not having only a conservator. In other words, to have someone like Wayne,
The registrar,
a registrar curator type, and
collections manager.
would be, and also I mentioned Carrie Slavani, from G2, to take advantage of the fact that there's a statewide program that is the major source of conservation funds that happens to be in the Lower Hudson Valley.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But you're saying that the conservators aren't administrators.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what you're, that sounds like you're saying.
And that you want to have someone who.
Well, right, no, I think that's what the job would be, because I don't imagine that any undergrad at SUNY New Paltz would conserve, a work of art like by hand. I think that it is more of an administrative position that we're talking about.
Well, I think,
Right,
I think
but-
were Casey mentioning that it would be more master's level.
Sure, but
Involved in
even
that.
still, neither one of our institutions has a art conservation program. None of our students are trained
Yeah.
in art conservation. We have art studio majors but if we're talking about like actually testing the pigments, magnetic orientation and so forth, that's not something that our students could do. I thought it was more of just kind of, it was more on the registrarial.
But you want overall condition reports, you're not
Yeah.
testing pigments at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what we're saying is that as far as the whole municipal art collection is concerned, that's where the students might be
Yeah.
best involved, but as far as the direct repairs of the WPA, that
It's
is
a highly trained.
a higher,
Yeah.
Job.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know the scope of the work that they did previously with the Lunettes, right? So that would
We're
be,
getting that
yeah,
next
exactly,
month.
that would be helpful with, sort of presenting this project and saying, we've done this before, there's precedent. And we can write that into the grant, we've successfully administered this type of program, XYZ, and we do have resources locally
Yeah.
with these institutions.
Have that report
Yeah.
from Sue Cahill's office by next month. You look in there, we'll have. the
Martin
two-
also has a really important collection that they manage.
Yes, I mean, but again, they don't conserve.
Right. Right.
But there's
But the
things that they
management
can,
of the
yes,
collection
yes,
is
they can
most
do.
important.
But I think that another important part that came out of the first two public art committee meetings is that, by the way, the application process is still open, still accepting applications, that we have 2 remaining slots open, but establishing the criteria, the protocol, the procedures, the methods for this committee, since it's a brand new committee, they'll be heavily reliant on advisory from the Kingston Arts Commission, and just setting the groundwork for this, because it is new. And also, we have some inquiries that have come through, there's that list that I provided, what is priority, what is not? What can, wait down the road? But, I think that this year, it's most important that we establish the committee formally, because this is the only, or the first formal committee of the Kingston Arts Commission.
And also to seek advice from other mid-sized cities about whether they have collections and how they have addressed this, because, they're doing more or less the same thing. And I always, of course, mention Asheville. And so because you don't want to start from scratch from this.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Lester, as in your purview? In that regard?
I do,
It can wait.
but I mean, we had talked about setting up ad hoc committees based on the members' interests. And any action or recommendation comes to the commission anyway. We talked about sort of developing guidelines. We ran out of time. But, I mean, I'm the public art, everyone has a different area and different set of contacts and information. So yeah, that'll definitely be part of it, but.
Did you not say that was it you or someone else that had, the policy, or if you will, or the procedures for the public art committee? Was it you or somebody else that said that they had samples?
Well, I had 3 samples from, I could remember, Oregon, Ithaca, somewhere else, and they're, 25,000 population, maybe more. And they're pretty formal about the selection process for artists, issuing calls, what the selection panel shall be. It's 2 artists, an art professional, a curator, and a person from the department in the MTA's program, which is a model for a lot of other ones. So it's that type of nitty-gritty that I think we'll be developing in our next couple of meetings and bringing it to this group to hash out. The other thing we introduced at the end of the meeting was general ideas about what public art means. Like we brought it back through the lens of community engagement, especially Casey, that's what he does, at Bard. Is the art intended to engage the public, or is part of the art engaging the public and developing art based on that experience? It can be both, and that's, something else we want to explore. Does this Art Society of Kingston Sculpture Biennial sit in several sites, or does it become a community focal point? That's the kind of thing we'll develop our sense of guidelines and I think make recommendations to the folks that come before the committee and then the commission. Period. End of 15 minutes.
You have 1 minute, but yes. Can you vamp it 60 seconds? No, okay.
Anything else?
Any other comments?
Those that were at the meeting?
Seems like a good synopsis to me. Okay. Thank you.
I hope that it was recent.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is Strategy and Funding Committee Report, which BJ was going to,
Well, I can take it,
but I can
it's
also
us.
fill in.
We can. That committee consists of, the mayor, Ruth Ann, myself, DJ, Lisa, Richard. I think we've had our 3rd meeting. I think we're making some headway here. Ruth Ann has submitted the Art Smith Hudson grant, and that is to support the USA 250 exhibition programming. We should hear by mid-May, what the results will be from that. So we'll report more, once we get the answers. The ground floor lighting, I am so grateful to Ruth Ann for stepping in. We've had 2 companies come and do some estimates. She and I have spent some time with engineering and, looking at, we have some delicate wiring issues. However, there's a lot of possibles. There's a lot of things that, Don Schulteis, who is an engineering director, said can happen. Ruth Ann has had some conversations with SHPA. We're approved. They just have to know what's going on once we, see the various systems that are the options. The electrician estimated that the work would be between 10 and 20K altogether, from installation to the lighting system. However, the question was asked and it was confirmed that this could be a part of the city's capital budget. It doesn't all fall under ACA, so we will be putting it in the budget request. We should have a lot of information very shortly. Unlike the county, whose budget is due at the end of June, at least we have until August, but that's coming very fast. So Ruth Ann has identified a couple of grants, she is working on, and I'm just really excited because she feels that we probably will have a new lighting system by the December exhibition. Or at least a reasonable addition to like the hallway, because it is overall a very dark hallway, as you know, it just needs illumination.
Did she submit the T-Mobile,
Yes,
the T-Mobile grant?
so yes. And you know, what came about too in some of these conversations, possibility of tying in fundraising for the lighting system with a focus on the work progress administration collection. Possibly just taking it all off the walls wherever it is, putting it down in the ground floor light gallery, having that to be the first lit or other. And bring awareness to its condition and it, you know, also its history. And having local speakers who know about the history of the work progress administration collection or that movement where artists were valued back then and remembered generously by the federal administration during the Great Depression. You know, have some talks on, you know, basically that and the local artists that participated in that and then the local and the artwork that was focused on some of the local areas. So a lot of good ideas are coming about. I feel very positive that we're gonna make some progress on both.
And it's great to see that convergence of two projects
Yes, exactly.
coming together, supporting each other, because that really is great.
So as we know, we're not a 501c3, so we don't necessarily qualify for foundation grants requiring 501c. The mayor will be putting in, this is confirmed by the mayor, that he will be putting in an application for the city to have its own 501c3 at some point this year. Don't know how long it will take for us to get it, but it's in the works because this department isn't the only one needing, you know, or identifying grants that it could qualify for. We have Friends of the City of Kingston or that arm that will allow us to. So don't know when that's happening, but at least that's a forward movement, positive news. As far as the advisory or the cautionary for Barbara Briggs Potter that we shouldn't go out there and shake the hand from everybody and anybody because there might be a pay-to-play little scenario here or there, conflict of interest scenario. We have just proven that we can get around this. We had a very successful textile arts project. We hosted, but there was no money exchanged because the Art Society of Kingston was the fiscal sponsor for the Woodstock Weavers. So that got done without any of the restrictions or the stringent rules that we now have to follow. Back in the day where money was raised for the Work Progress Administration initially, it was a lot easier to go out and shake hands because there were not all the restrictions that we have right now. But we are seeing ways where we can get around it and still be the host or still partner with other organizations. So that's, I wanted to, you know, because we've had, you know, such frustration with no, you can't do this, you can't ask for money, you can't do this. And now we're looking at the ways we can. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow's meeting to see, because I have other questions about, you know, other ways that we can get response for this division and our projects. That's the end of that report that I have. Did you have anything to add, Richard or Lisa?
I know we're working on reviewing sponsorship forms that you put together. And we're going to be giving you, I just want to acknowledge that because it hasn't happened yet, but it will be happening so that we could get potential business and business sponsorships for programming.
And we've been talking.
Yeah.
Also, we talked about Burning Kingston not being in that meeting, not being this year.
That's another sideline report.
Oh, okay, so it was just, that was in that conversation, so you have, you know.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay, moving on. Director's update.
Director's update, yes. Again, I'd like to just thank Carol Wood and the Woodstock Weavers. I saw just about everybody there. What do you think?
It was great. Yeah, it was really a lot of fun.
We had about 350 people come through the door, from 11 to 4. And it was like a magical little village. Thank you, Dina. It was like a magical little village that took you back in time. Trina was the belle of the ball, Trina Green. She was just having so much fun, but Carol actually cried at the end. She did so much work, Carol Wood, on the talking walls. We will have the copies of all of the, all the panels that she worked with. It'll go under Engage Kingston. A lot of the weavers and spinners and lace makers and everything, they want to do it again. And I'm like, I'm already tired, but they just had such a good time just gathering. A lot, some of the groups do not participate in sheep and wool. I'm not sure why, maybe it's because it's outdoors. But one thing that was observed is it's an aging craft. And, my hopes were that, we can inspire some of these groups to visit some of the youth groups and catch fire there and see if there's interest and perhaps funding so that, these crafts can be shared with the young folks and passed along, because it's just fascinating. I really appreciate the grainy videos that she found of the hemp farming and what have you. They were brilliant. But all in all, I think it was very successful all along, and I'd just like to applaud her again. We had then the, yes, sir.
Just want to say, because I'm listening to you, I'm thinking how, I mean, it's something very hard to do right now, but we think about in the future when we have events like this, we will have some kind of even a very casual catalog of, or maybe even online, just so that there's, a permanent kind of record of these, just like this is what we have with the sculpture.
All of that is going.
But that'll I guess that serves as that, because it just like we have catalogs of the sculpture biennials, it's.
In lieu of the budget, printing.
Right, right.
It will be, everything will be uploaded and maintained on Engage Kingston at this point, so. I was trying to get a hand-done catalog for everybody to take and run around with, but we just simply didn't.
That's expensive and time consuming.
Well, we didn't have time.
Yeah.
She was working on where she was stationing people as they were coming in. You're going here, you're going over there. Just, yeah.
But the document, so.
Anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry. The April 10th youth, this was my final commissary to Dr. Wheeler, SUNY New Paltz. We had our final program on April 10th. It was attended by about 30 and well received. The actress Ayesa is just great with the youth. I would like to see her come back and just go to the various youth centers and just do her thing. She was brilliant. So I appreciate everything and everyone that contributed to every single one of our events. This was a pretty tiring year from the major installation, but at least when we decided we were bringing that statue here, it became a part of our public art policy, because within that we had a loan agreement really quickly. Thanks, Jaworski. From that to the Freedom Exhibition to the Sojourner Truth Walk to the youth, I think we've done SUNY proud with what we've done with the statue. It will leave here August 4th for the Ulster County, and from there, after 6 months, it goes to Newburgh Free Library, and then 6 months later, it will be permanently installed outside of the Sojourner Truth Library. I will be there with bells on. We have I have more notes here, and welcome the input from the Kingston Arts Commission on the celebration of the semi-quincentennial 250 years of American voices, stories, and histories. I'm not going to go through all of these notes, but if we could take some time, because our call for art should be going out in August. And in honing in the criteria, because this is pretty broad, and I think we need to tone it up on what we're looking for as far as the call for art is concerned. We have the foyer and we have the walls downstairs, and also we always reserve a dedicated wall for the youth. That's my favorite part. I'm already putting together the, because if we don't book some of these people now, we'll lose them. Because these are groups in the area that are booking already. So I have confirmed with you. Samuel Mutter's Old War. Now, he composed this specifically for the burning of Kingston, but it speaks of the human aspect of the Revolutionary War, the four voices and upward, double upright bass. And you need your tissues for it. It's about 17 minutes long, and it's profound, but it does speak to the human aspect. And it was extremely well received by those who got to go to this last burning of Kingston, that finale. But that was a small group, so we're going to repeat it again. We also have the Van Amber Caravan. They have scored a beautiful choreography, America in Motion for USA 250. We're not getting the entire caravan in the council chambers. We're going to get a smaller, and this will be a preview. It won't be the full. But at that point, they'll know where they will be premiering the full America in Motion. Steve Bourne, Indian Ragas, he's going to take us into that aspect. Evan Pritchard will give us Native American songs. Kate Hines will recite from Phyllis Wheatley to Sojourner, Alessandra, Puerto Rican, Latin American songs. This is a day, I've been asking a lot of people what they're doing for the USA 250, and I get blank. Haven't thought about it yet. Frozen. And to me, we have been known to celebrate all of our cultures, all of our backgrounds, all of our histories. One world. We all come from somewhere. And of course, we're going to end the year with Barbara Picard and Ars Corrales. I don't know what she's coming up with, but it's an opener for USA 250. The most profound program that I participated in is when we all come from somewhere. And I was called upon to read the Somalian refugee quote, and I couldn't even read it. I was in tears. Please don't call me refugee, call me human. So I can't wait for how we're going to close this year out. And we've already gone through the ground floor lighting, but just in looking at some of the support for the ground floor lighting, and especially if it is combined with the work progress administration. I'm in talks with the Ulster County Clerk to see if they might be able to have us in their budget. It's due next month. We're meeting Monday. So if we have any other recommendations for this, if you can write to me before Monday, that'd be great. This all comes so fast. And yes, the Grants Management Division is submitting the T-Mobile placemaking grant for the gallery lighting at the end of June. The award notification is in August, so the goal would be to install the lighting, like Ruth Ann said, in time for the December exhibition. Once we have a stronger idea of the options for the fixtures, we'll run these by the Kingston Arts Commission. We're not going to move without you. I appreciate you, Sophie.
Thank you.
And we already know that the net repair update is going to be given to us, the whole history of that. And then I just want to, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the burning of Kingston is usually every other year. But we don't want to lose momentum because we are in the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War. Paul Revere wrote a couple of weeks ago. So from that moment until 2027, it's on. However, instead of burning of Kingston, we're going to keep the momentum strong by having Kingston colonial dates. You have the proposed projects here. We're going to keep the slave narratives, but we will have a panel discussion among local representatives, hopefully our new Kira Mansell Brown from Reher and others will sit in a panel discussion about this thing called war and our society as it is, and who's a refugee, who's an immigrant, who was here first. I mean, we really want this panel discussion to be pretty juicy. And this, during that time in October, will be well poised to be able to get people excited about what we'll be bringing for the Kingston 2006 and 2007. And I hope it'll be big. I hope it'll be well funded. We don't know yet. So with that, I can, we do have also the schedule for the concerts in the park. We start with the July 4th of July celebration. And I think that's all. My report is on the Kingston meetings calendar under Arts Commission for anybody that'd like to look, and please send me anything. Oh, I got one more, the Post Office Park project update. The sculpture will be installed mid-June. The date hasn't been confirmed, but there will be a ribbon cutting. There will not be a site visit with the fabricator unless the selection panel, those of us who were asked to be in the selection panel so desire. Otherwise, we're just gonna go ahead with the ribbon cutting. So Ruth Ann is gonna write to the selection panel members very soon and ask if you'd like to either have a walkthrough or we could just go and look at it. And that's all I have.
Just to clarify, you were asking about the 250, you're asking for input on the titling for the 250
The
event?
theme, title, call for art. Yes.
The actual title,
It's pretty broad.
okay, recommendations for title for this theme requested.
And I can actually draft the call for art, but it'd be great if we could really hone in on something as opposed to being broad, or we can just keep it broad.
I'm gonna let it percolate.
Yeah.
Let it
Because it's
marinate.
Because it is very broad.
It's very broad.
Okay. So I just wanted to highlight that section that you'd like in action. Okay. All right. Any questions for Kit? Thank you, Kit. Comments?
I should know the answer. What sculpture at Post Office Park precedes my arrival?
That's true.
Is it something we can talk about at another time?
No, let's talk about it now. We had call for art. This was before we had a public art policy. This went under the ARPA funding that actually had the art obligated. So our grants director put out a call for art for public art at Post Office Park, which is Broadway and Prince. And then they assembled, she and the mayor assembled a selection panel, and we got great responses. This was $50,000. And I forgot the name of the person that was selected, okay, sorry. We did have one selected, his work was very impressive. He's been working on it. I'll give you more.
Okay.
Okay, I was gonna look at it right now. All right, any more old business, new business, or old business, or new business, or new people? I thought I had something, but I lost my note and I was writing it down.
Well, can I ask a question about the Distinguished Artist Award now, because I'm going to be meeting with the mayor tomorrow and Ruth Ann.
Yeah.
Back when, we had a discussion on whether or not this should include a public art project, Ruth Ann looked and saw a potential funding source that would enable us to give the award at a more reasonable amount in order to ask the awardee to do a public art project. And I'm wondering if 5,000 to 7,000 would be that figure.
When you say, ask the awardee to do a public art project, if the awardee is a poet, does that mean just do a presentation of her poetry?
Well, I would say it'd have to be a little more meat on the bones than that. I'm not really sure.
I just think you have to go broadly in terms of the kinds of art that you're thinking about, because I hope we go broadly. When I think about one, Mary, the trans person, Jaguar, yeah. I mean,
That could have been she had a great vision for a public art project that she would have liked to do as part of her tenure as the distinguished artist for City of Kingston, but that probably would have come in at 5,000.
yeah, I was just thinking about the person, you know, if the person's a poet, if the person is a fiction writer, I think we just have to think broadly, and but I think $5,000 is a nice amount that anyone should get.
I think it depends on, who the awardee is, like you said, and genre. I'm wondering about the grant itself. We don't need to know who the awardee is before, right? We're just.
It's the award itself.
The general, okay.
So,
So, yeah, I mean, and if you have to spend all the money, I think we could figure out how to spend it all. No matter what it is.
How are you allocating it? Because they got a money award.
they would get the 5,000 to do a public art project, because earlier in this award, it was 500.
Yeah,
And there was a little bristling going on because it was a $500 award requiring the awardee to do 2 public art projects
Right.
before their tenure ended. And then it changed again, and then it just changed to just a cash award. So what I'd like to take back tomorrow in this conversation is if Ruth Ann does see that grant is still available, what would they say would be a fair amount? I think Maggie had at some point mentioned 10,000. What are we looking at as far as, having a fair amount for the person, whether it's a poet, whether it's because it could be the new works, I don't know.
I'm sorry, but just to what Ward was saying, it's just a poem, I could see it as something part of a program that's wrapped around this, it's a distinguished arts program that that would feature this, and that takes the pressure off of the person to do something, and almost that $10,000 could go toward maybe the program, with something to the artist too. But I mean, I just meant. It's a lot to put on one person.
Speaking as a writer,
What?
as a writer, I could speak to the kind of program that someone could put on. Could do a very sophisticated kind of reading and workshops with young people.
Right.
And get young people engaged in writing their stuff. I mean, that's the stuff that a writer could do with that money. I mean, that's, it's not the same as a painting or
well, I feel like
sculpture.
we're wading back into the discussion we had when we dropped the public art part, because it was, I don't know, if we wanted it to be purely an award,
Well,
recognition.
I'm not sure how we raise funds for our cash award.
Aside from
If you-
business sponsorship or donations in that way.
Yeah, I think if you can do 2 things.
Yeah.
You can give the award and with the award, separate funding for an event, the program. So that they're not necessarily, so that, because that's, I think, where things get hung up is, giving somebody $500 to do a program, almost any program can't work. It's an insult to an artist to say, we'd like you to do a program, and here's $500 to do it.
So it was at the beginning.
Yeah, well, I know, and that's,
And they didn't ask for that.
So if you asked for $10,000 and $5,000 was the award and $5,000 was for the
A budget,
programming,
yeah.
whether it's the type of art that people engage with or that the art engages people, we have to decide which is it, right? So
Can't that be what the artists
Yeah, right.
recommend?
I guess they
the
could,
artist
yes.
says you-
But I also think like, if you're a poet or if you're a sculptor, the materials are not the same, they're not gonna cost the same thing, so to give them $5,000 and then expect them to use that money to create something.
Yeah. It's like a sneaky wicket, right? It feels
Yeah,
like
it's just not equitable. So give the award and then provide a pot of funding to create something, if that's what we're
I
asking.
mean, are we talking create something in collaboration with the city, in partnership with the
Temporary,
ACA or
temporary
with?
public art project.
Right, so it wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be a solo endeavor, it would be supported through by city staff and not,
It'd be their project,
okay,
like Jaguar.
yeah.
That conversation that we had, I was really impressed with what she came up with, and I'm sorry that we just didn't have funding for it, because it was brilliant. Dream. So anyway, I would like to, because our budget is due in August. If I was to develop a concept paper for Ruthann to seek grants for this particular program, am I saying to her, we just want to, you to go find a grant to give someone cash for this award and buy a trophy and have a celebration? Or are we saying that, because what she saw was the makings of a particular public art, on a small scale, some kind of public art project or presentation?
I'm leaning towards it being a completely separate thing. That the Distinguished Artist Award should be a cash prize, boom, boom, boom. And if we want to have a call for a commission work, then I think we'd have more control over what we want, and it wouldn't be this sticky wicket of what art form or whatever. It might sway the review panel. I mean, how, what's the criteria now for a review panel in terms of receiving that kind of money? Would it depend on if they're a writer or an artist, visual artist, depending on the public art? I mean, is that gonna be part of it? I just think that it could be another program altogether, commissioning art for a public
If I'm
display.
hearing you correctly, the committee is just going to choose the distinguished artist. Is not going to decide what the program is going to be.
No, I'm suggesting it just remain as a cash prize.
And don't set
In a
aside money
ceremony.
for a program.
I think you could create a new program. I mean, we could have a program of commissioning art around public art spaces. I mean,
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think it diminishes the possibility of what a distinguished artist, you just a prize, you're the distinguished artist, you get a prize, and rather than demonstrating somehow, like what Maggie was saying, I think I'm understanding it, but of creating a program around around that person's art and what they've contributed, I think it makes more of it. It makes the Distinguished Artist Award not just a prize. It makes it a part of the year's program. I don't know if I'm saying that.
yeah.
I think I'm saying what I'm thinking. But I just, I think, I personally, I was always kind of bothered by that aspect of the Distinguished Art Award, that it was kind of like a prize. And some of the artists actually fought against that. I mean, they said, we want to do something bigger, but there's no money. I mean, Peter and Julie, particularly, at the very beginning, they were our first awardees, and they had a vision of something. It wasn't even that expensive. It just.
Are we still on the fence by this conversation? Because my suggestion would be maybe do a digital poll and have a work lunchtime Zoom work session to see if it's possible or what the possibilities are. What we have to bear in mind, though, is that once we do establish the sponsorship page, we can just point people into the direction, but we are still not allowed to directly solicit. We have a year before the next ceremony.
Funding,
Yes, from individuals.
You know, just what you're saying, actually, if it were linked though to another, you know, to some entity in the city, you know, it fits into their program so that, you know, so that there's money that comes from their thing. I mean,
You're talking about a non-city nonprofit, is that what you're?
no, I'm actually, well, I'm thinking, you know, like, again, what Maggie was saying about a writer, you know, I mean, if it somehow fit into a library program. I mean, I'm just throwing this out, I'm just, you know, no, I already have.
but that could be determined by the artist.
Yes, oh, yes.
You know, I mean, my point about being a writer is that as a writer, I might have ideas that non-writers might not think about
Right.
as a public.
And we figure out ways to support that.
And so if you give I like this, what Cicely was saying, if you give $5,000 period, that's the award. And then the support for the project is an additional $5,000 that they can then spend on their public project.
That's cool.
And then, I mean, if somebody is qualified to be a distinguished artist in our community, I would think they could think of a public art project that would be appropriate to their medium.
Let's take the current distinguished artist, Matt.
Right.
So what would he do with the $5,000?
I don't know.
I can tell you right now,
I mean, a mural.
I can tell you right now, he already is doing a retrospective. He's renting Cornell Art Center for a retrospective in October, and I'd like for him to come here in the June meeting to just present the progress of the work that he's doing of his own accord, that he's raising his own money for, and that because of his award.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not a devil's advocate for not giving a distinguished artist award of project money, but I'm just weighing the possibilities. Another thing is he really wants to do another mural, and he has an idea, he has it all conceived and everything. And he would love to present to the city this idea. He doesn't know how he's gonna pay for it, he doesn't know where the city would allow him to do it, he might do it on a private wall or not, but he's already got the ideas.
Yeah.
You're right, but we don't have the support to be able to offer him at this time. But I'm working with him with MCAD to fiscally sponsor his fundraising to make it so. So, in the interim, but if we could figure it out, and I think a working lunch would be a great idea, just to bat around ideas.
Because I think, just the talk that he gave on the acceptance speech, I was like, oh, he could have done this somewhere else, right? I would have gone to that. I just loved seeing his renditions of older houses. I just loved it. But I just think that not many artists get an opportunity, a paid opportunity, right? And if we're honoring somebody, we should give them the opportunity and the platform to showcase themselves, that work, and give back to the community in some way.
Yeah. All right, so I think we are done, so. Oh, any questions, comments, any more? Okay, may I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. And it's unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Sorry,
Thank you.